I stood outside that church in a blood-red dress, my hands trembling as I clutched a folder that would destroy everything my cousin had built. Through the stained glass windows, I could hear the wedding music starting, and I knew that in about 5 minutes, 200 people were going to watch me ruin the happiest day of her stolen life. Because the woman walking down that aisle, she was getting married as me, using my name, my face, my entire identity. And her perfect fiancé had no idea he was about to marry a complete fraud. I took one last deep breath and walked toward the entrance, ready to crash my own wedding. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. But to understand how I got here, standing outside that church ready to expose my cousin's lies in front of everyone she loved, I need to take you back to where this nightmare actually began. My name is Maya Rodriguez, I'm 27 years old, and up until a year ago, I thought I had a pretty normal life. I worked as a medical secretary in Seattle, made decent money, had good friends, and lived in a cozy apartment. Nothing glamorous, but I was happy, I was content, and most importantly, I trusted my family, especially my cousin Jessica. Jessica and I grew up together like sisters. Our moms are siblings, and they were so close that we practically lived in each other's houses growing up. Same schools, same birthday parties, same everything. We were only 3 months apart in age, so everyone always compared us. And I'm not trying to sound conceited, but people always said I was the prettier one, the smarter one. I got better grades without really trying, made friends easily, and just seemed to glide through life while Jessica struggled. I could see it in her eyes sometimes, this weird resentment, but I tried to ignore it. I felt guilty about it, actually. Like somehow it was my fault that things came easier to me. The first time Jessica really crossed a line, we were 16. She took my diary from my room and shared my most embarrassing, private entries with boys at our school. I was humiliated, completely devastated. When I confronted her, crying and furious, you know what she did? She burst into tears and said she just wanted to feel close to me, that she felt like I was pulling away and she didn't know how else to connect. And my mom, my mom said, Maya, don't be so harsh. You know Jessica struggles with self-esteem. She looks up to you. Be the bigger person. So I forgave her. I always forgave her. In college, it got worse, but so gradually that I didn't even realize it was happening. We went to different schools, but Jessica would constantly ask me for help. Could she reference my papers? Could I share my login for academic databases? Did I mind if she used my Netflix, my Spotify, my Amazon password for textbooks? And I said yes every single time because that's what family does, right? We help each other. But then she started posting photos on social media where she'd cropped me out completely and captioned them as if she had been at these events alone. When I called her out, she apologized immediately. Oh my God, Maya, I'm so sorry. I just wanted my profile to look better. You have such a great life, such great photos. I didn't think you'd mind. And again, the family response was the same. Maya, why are you being so possessive? They're just photos. Jessica admires you. Can't you be flattered? After graduation, Jessica moved to Portland for what she called a fresh start. We'd text occasionally, but looking back now, her questions were so weird. She'd ask me things like, what was your first pet's name again, or what street did we live on when we were 10, or what's your mom's maiden name? I thought she was just being nostalgic, reminiscing about our childhood. I had no idea she was collecting security question answers like weapons. She'd also ask about my job constantly. What was my boss's name? What were my exact responsibilities? What kind of software did we use? I told her everything because she said she was considering a similar career path and wanted advice. I was trying to be helpful. I was trying to be a good cousin. Then the weird things started happening. Small things at first. I got denied for a credit card I applied for, and the rejection letter said I had too many recent inquiries. But I hadn't applied for anything else. My bank called about suspicious activity in Portland. I'd never been to Portland. A collections agency called me about a store card I didn't remember opening. Each time, I'd call Jessica in a panic, and each time, she'd have an explanation. Oh my God, Maya, I'm so sorry. Remember when I visited you last Christmas? I think I accidentally grabbed your ID from your desk when I needed to show proof of address for something. I'll fix it right away, I promise. And my mom would say, see? She's fixing it. These things happen between family. Don't make a big deal and ruin your relationship over honest mistakes. So I didn't. I made excuses for her. I told myself I was overreacting, that Jessica would never deliberately hurt me. Deep down, something felt wrong, but I'd been trained my entire life to protect her, to understand her, to be the bigger person. Over the next year, it got so much worse. More credit denials. Strange emails about job applications I never submitted. LinkedIn notifications showing someone in Portland viewing my profile dozens of times. And then one day, a guy messaged me on social media saying, "Hey, last time we went out was so fun. Want to grab drinks again?" I'd never met this person in my life. When I confronted Jessica again, she broke down completely. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "Maya, I'm so sorry. I've been in such a dark place. I might have used your name on a dating app because I was embarrassed about my own life. I'll delete it immediately. Please don't hate me. I need help." And Jessica's mom, my aunt, actually called me and said, "Your cousin is going through severe depression, Maya. She needs support right now, not accusations. Can't you be more compassionate?" So again, I backed down. I swallowed my anger and my fear because I didn't want to be the villain in the story. But the anxiety was eating me alive. My credit score had dropped 200 points. I was getting calls from creditors about $30,000 in debt I didn't recognize. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't focus at work. And I still kept making excuses for her because that's what I'd been conditioned to do my entire life. Then came the day that changed everything. I was at work, just a normal Tuesday afternoon, when two police officers walked into the office. Everyone looked up, confused, and then they said my name. "Maya Rodriguez." I nodded, my heart pounding, thinking maybe there'd been an accident, something happened to my parents. Instead, they said, "You're under arrest for credit card fraud and identity theft." I actually laughed because I thought it was a joke. It had to be a joke. But they put handcuffs on me right there in front of all my coworkers, read me my rights, and took me away. I was fingerprinted, photographed, put in a holding cell with strangers. The charges were for crimes committed in Portland, thousands of dollars in fraudulent purchases, fake credit applications, all under my name. And sitting in that cell, staring at those concrete walls, I finally admitted the truth to myself. This wasn't a series of accidents. This wasn't Jessica being careless or going through a hard time. This was deliberate. This was calculated. This was Jessica destroying my life on purpose. And I was done making excuses for her. My parents bailed me out 6 hours later. The charges were eventually dropped when I proved I was in Seattle during every single fraudulent transaction, but the damage was already done. My boss called me 2 days later and said they had to let me go. Even though I was innocent, even though the charges were dropped, he said it was too much drama for the workplace and they needed someone more stable. I lost my job because of crimes I didn't commit. Because of Jessica. But when I told my family what I knew, what I finally admitted out loud, they still defended her. My aunt said, "Maya, you can't just assume it was Jessica. Maybe someone stole both of your identities. Have you considered that?" My own mother said, "Before you go accusing family, maybe we should all sit down and talk about this calmly." I screamed at them. I actually screamed. "She has been asking me for passwords and personal information for years. She lives in Portland where these crimes happened. How much proof do you need?" But they just looked at me like I was being hysterical, like I was the problem. That's when I realized they would never choose me. They would protect Jessica until the very end, and I was completely alone in this. So I stopped asking for their help. I took what was left of my savings, about $3,000, and I hired a private investigator in Portland. I gave him everything I had: dates, addresses, every weird question Jessica had ever asked me, every suspicious incident. I told him, "Find out what she's really doing with my name." 2 weeks later, he sent me a report that made me physically sick. Jessica hadn't just stolen my credit cards. She had been living as me for 3 entire years. She was using my full name, Maya Rodriguez, my social security number, and photos she'd stolen from my phone and social media to build a completely fake identity in Portland. The PI sent me screenshots of her life, and I sat in my apartment reading them over and over, unable to process what I was seeing. She had a job as a hospital administrator making $95,000 a year. That was my dream job, the exact position I'd been working toward my entire career. And she got it using my college transcripts, the ones she'd borrowed years ago to reference for her own applications. Except she never gave them back. She submitted them as her own. Her boss, her colleagues, everyone at that hospital knew her as Maya Rodriguez. She was living the professional life I'd worked so hard for while I couldn't even get hired as a secretary anymore because of the criminal record she'd created for me. Her entire social media presence was my face. Every single photo on her Instagram was either a picture of me that she'd cropped herself out of, or a photo she'd stolen directly from my phone during family visits. There were pictures of me at my college graduation, at my friend's wedding, on a beach vacation, all posted as if they were her moments, her memories, her life. She had over 8,000 followers who thought she was this beautiful, accomplished woman, but it was all me. She'd literally stolen my face and was using it to build a fake life. And then I got to the worst part of the report. Jessica was engaged. His name was Daniel Chen, and he was a senior architect at a prestigious firm in Portland. Handsome, successful, kind from everything I could see online. They'd been together for 18 months. He'd proposed 6 months ago with a gorgeous ring. And he thought he was engaged to Maya Rodriguez. He'd seen all those stolen photos, believed all the fake credentials, fallen in love with a woman who didn't exist. Jessica had found love, real love, by pretending to be me. I threw up. I actually ran to the bathroom and threw up because the betrayal was so complete, so devastating, that my body couldn't handle it. She hadn't just ruined my credit or stolen my career opportunities. She'd stolen the entire life I wanted. The successful job, the financial stability, the loving relationship. She was living better than I ever could have because she didn't have to deal with any of the consequences she'd created for me. While I was being arrested, losing my job, and destroying my mental health, she was getting engaged and planning a wedding. I printed out every page of that report, drove to my parents' house, and laid it all out on their kitchen table. I expected them to finally see the truth, to finally support me, to finally choose me for once in my life. Instead, my mother looked at the evidence and said, "Maya, are you absolutely sure about this? This seems extreme. Maybe you should talk to Jessica first before involving the police." My aunt actually said, "Jessica wouldn't do this. I think you've always been a little jealous of her happiness, and now you're looking for reasons to tear her down." I lost it. I completely lost it. Jealous? She is literally living as me. She stole my name, my face, my credentials, my life. How can I be jealous of my own stolen identity? But they kept pushing back, kept making excuses. My dad said, "If you press charges, you'll destroy her future. She'll go to prison. Is that really what you want? Can't we handle this within the family?" And that's when I finally understood. After 27 years of being the bigger person, of forgiving her, of making excuses for her behavior, they still expected me to protect her. Even now, with undeniable proof of what she'd done, they wanted me to let it go. I looked at my mother and said, "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep sacrificing myself to protect someone who has been systematically destroying me for years." She didn't just make a mistake. She built an entire fake life on top of my real one, and she's living happily while I'm drowning. And you want me to just talk to her? My mother started to cry, but I didn't care anymore. I was done caring about everyone else's feelings while mine were ignored. I went home, poured myself a glass of wine with shaking hands, and opened Jessica's Instagram one last time. There was a new post from 3 days earlier. It was one of my college graduation photos, me in my cap and gown smiling at the camera, except she'd edited herself into it somehow. The caption read, "1 month until I marry the love of my life. I never thought I'd be this happy. Feeling so blessed. #bride-to-be #future wife 1 month." She was getting married in 1 month. I clicked through to find more details. The wedding was at a beautiful vineyard outside Portland. 200 guests. Daniel's wealthy family would be there. All of her fake friends, her co-workers who knew her as me, everyone who believed in the lie. It was going to be the perfect fairy tale wedding for her perfect stolen life. And that's when my rage crystallized into something cold and focused. I wasn't just going to call the police and let her get arrested quietly. I wasn't going to let her play victim and claim it was all a misunderstanding. No. She wanted a perfect wedding as Maya Rodriguez? Fine. I'd give her exactly that. I'd show up and introduce everyone to the real Maya Rodriguez, and I'd watch her entire house of lies collapse in front of every single person she'd fooled. She'd stolen my life. Now I was going to take it back in the most public, devastating way possible. Her wedding day was going to become my revenge. I spent the next 4 weeks building my case like I was preparing for war. I gathered every document that proved I was the real Maya Rodriguez. My original birth certificate with the hospital footprints still on it. My social security card that I'd had since I was a baby. My passport with stamps from actual trips I'd taken. I pulled photos from my childhood, my high school yearbooks, my college dorm room, all with timestamps and dates that Jessica couldn't fake. I got my bank records going back 10 years showing the fraudulent accounts that had destroyed my credit. I had the police report from my arrest with evidence proving all those crimes were committed in Portland while I was verifiably in Seattle. I even contacted old friends and former coworkers who agreed to provide written statements confirming my identity, but I didn't just want evidence. I wanted Daniel to know the truth before I showed up. So I found his work email and sent him one message: the woman you're marrying is not who she says she is. I'm the real Maya Rodriguez. I'll prove it at your wedding. I'm not trying to ruin your life, I'm trying to save you from ruining it yourself. Keep this email. I didn't wait for a response. I just booked my flight to Portland and bought a red dress. Bright, impossible to miss, red. If I was going to crash a wedding, I was going to make sure every single person saw me coming. The wedding day was absolutely perfect. Sunny, 72 degrees, at this gorgeous vineyard with rolling hills and string lights everywhere. I arrived just as the ceremony was starting. I could hear music playing, guests were seated in neat white rows, and everything looked like a Pinterest dream. I walked up to the security guard at the entrance and he asked for my name. I looked him dead in the eye and said, Maya Rodriguez. He checked his list, confused, and said, the bride is Maya Rodriguez. I smiled and said, I know. That's exactly why I'm here. Before he could stop me, I walked right past him toward the ceremony. Every step I took, people turned to stare. I could hear the whispers starting. Who is that? Why is she wearing red? Is she supposed to be here? I reached the back row just as the wedding march began, and then I saw her. Jessica appeared at the end of the aisle in this stunning white dress, glowing, radiant, looking happier than I'd ever seen her. For just a second, I felt a tiny stab of guilt. She looked so beautiful, so happy, so perfect. But then I remembered that every single piece of this happiness was built on destroying me, and that guilt evaporated instantly. The officiant started speaking. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Daniel Chen and Maya Rodriguez. Hearing my name come out of his mouth in reference to her made my blood boil. I didn't wait for the speak now or forever hold your peace moment. I stood up and shouted, stop this wedding right now. 200 heads whipped around to look at me. Jessica's face went completely white. Daniel looked confused, staring at me, then at Jessica, then back at me because we looked so similar in those stolen photos he'd seen. I started walking down the aisle, and I swear you could hear a pin drop. My name is Maya Rodriguez, I said clearly, my voice echoing through that vineyard. And that woman in the wedding dress has been living as me for 3 years. The gasps were immediate. Jessica tried to speak but nothing came out. I kept walking until I was standing right in front of Daniel. I sent you an email. I told you she wasn't who she claimed to be. I brought proof. I opened my folder and started handing him documents. My birth certificate next to a copy of Jessica's real birth certificate showing her actual name was Jessica Martinez. Photos of me, the real me, at all the events she'd claimed to attend on her Instagram. The police report from my arrest for her crimes. Bank statements showing $30,000 in fraudulent charges she'd made using my identity. Daniel's hands were shaking as he looked through everything. He kept glancing up at me, then at the papers, then at Jessica. These photos, he said quietly, these are you, not her. Every single one, I said. Every accomplishment on her resume, every story she told you about her life, every picture on her social media. All mine. She stole my identity and used it to build a fake life. The job she has? She got it using my college transcripts. The person you fell in love with doesn't exist. Daniel turned to Jessica, and I saw his face change from confusion to complete horror. Is this true? He asked. Did you steal someone's identity? Yes or no? Jessica was crying, mascara running down her face. I can explain, it's not what it looks like, I just needed help getting started but I cut her off. You stole my social security number. You opened credit cards in my name and maxed them out. You destroyed my credit score. I was arrested and lost my job because of you. And while I was dealing with all of that, you were here living my dream life like you'd earned it. Daniel's mother stood up, horrified. You lied about everything? Your entire identity is stolen? Other guests were pulling out their phones, recording everything. Jessica's fake friends looked shocked and betrayed. Daniel took off his microphone and said, "I don't know who you are. I thought I was marrying someone real, someone honest. Someone who actually existed." His voice cracked. "This wedding is over." He walked down that aisle and out of the vineyard, his entire family following behind him. Not one of them looked back at Jessica. The venue emptied in minutes. People were practically running to their cars, probably to call everyone they knew about the insane wedding they just witnessed. Jessica collapsed on the ground in her wedding dress, sobbing, trying to crawl after Daniel, but he was already gone. She looked up at me and screamed, "How could you do this to me?" I stared down at her and said, "How could I do this to you? You stole my entire life, Jessica. You don't get to play victim now." I pulled out my phone and called the police right there. Jessica was arrested within the hour for identity theft, fraud, and multiple felonies. They put her in handcuffs while she was still wearing that white dress, and I watched them put her in the back of a police car. I pressed every single charge I could. She's facing up to 15 years in prison now. 3 months later, my life is finally mine again. My credit is being restored, the fraudulent accounts are being removed, and I just accepted a job offer as a hospital administrator. The job Jessica had to quit after her arrest. Daniel actually reached out to apologize and offered to testify at her trial with evidence of all the lies she'd told him. My family finally apologized too, though I'm keeping my distance for now. Jessica wanted to be me so badly that she destroyed both our lives. But I got mine back. And watching her face the consequences of everything she did, that was the sweetest revenge I've ever tasted. If this story made you angry or satisfied, or if you've ever dealt with a toxic family member that everyone made excuses for, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.